We want to roll? Yes, sir. All right. Okay. Good afternoon. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Community Development and Transportation Committee meeting for October 25th, 2022. Council members who present, Mayor Kurt Wilson, Council Member Christine Hall, Council Member Lee Hills, and I believe other council members will be joining us shortly. The purpose of committee meetings are for the city departments to convey information to the mayor and city council and discuss initiatives listed on the published agenda. By ordinance, the committee consists of mayor and council and the city administrator serves as chair of committee meetings. This is a public meeting, but not a public hearing. Therefore, while the meeting is open to the public, we do not take public comments or questions during committee meetings unless specifically authorized by mayor and council. Public comments or questions are received at the regular city council meetings on the second and fourth Monday of each month and the fifth Monday of each month in open forum. One note, the upcoming open forum next week will take place on Tuesday, November 1st at 7 o'clock p.m. I would also like to highlight the public education and information opportunities still remaining to discuss the $180 million bond proposal. 3 separate questions, which will be on the ballot here the remaining of this week, next week, and then on November the 8th. Bond meetings this evening at the Adult Recreation Center on Grimes Bridge Road. Tomorrow evening at the St. Andrew Catholic Church on Riverside Road, and then Tuesday, November 1st at 5:15 p.m. at Brookfield Country Club. We do encourage citizens to engage our online platforms, and if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to our staff, and we will provide information to you. Also, if you have service requests or needs, please feel free to use the Roswell app or service web portal. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes for the Community Development and Transportation Committee meeting for September 27th, 2022. We have a motion for approval. Motion by Council Member Hills, second by Mayor Wilson. Any further discussion? All in favor? Thank you very much. Next item under Community Development, item number 2, is a consideration to approve a retaining wall for the Oaks in accordance with Unified Development Code Section 10.5, Section 10.5. Ms. Lenore Bromberg.
Thank you and good afternoon. I'm going to do my best to walk you through the process because I don't believe any of you were on council when the code was changed to include Article 10.5 regarding retaining walls. Before I get into the code, I just want to give you your bearings. So I've got a map on the screen. The property that we're going to be talking about tonight are these 4 parcels right here. This is at the corner of Zion Circle and Myrtle Street. It's currently Zone DX, and there is a development project that's been going through the process for a while for townhomes at this location, which are allowed by right. The project has been to design review board. It has gotten the appropriate plat that it needs to, and now they're working towards getting their land disturbance permit, and there is a retaining wall that's been shown all along associated with that. And so this is the appropriate time for us to bring it forward to council now that they've got their design plans nailed down and they understand the design for the wall itself. And so I'll walk you through the code, I'll walk you through the elevations and the information that have been provided to us, and then be happy to answer any questions that you may have about it. So starting first with the code, this is section 10.5 retaining walls, which is under the site development. So the reason why we bring it through to committee and then to council instead of straight to council is it's not a rezoning. This is basically a technical element within the code, and when this section was created by mayor and council back, I believe in 2017, the choice was made to add some language in here that certain retaining walls required mayor and council approval. In order to allow you guys the opportunity to ask questions about it, and because there's been gaps in time between those presentations, we felt it'd be a good idea to bring forward the full package to you tonight. So just quickly to note that these retaining walls are for new or replaced retaining walls that are on non-single family residential properties. So if it's a single family house, we wouldn't be having this conversation because this is townhomes, and so there's in a common area, or if I had a single family development with a retaining wall that went across multiple properties, Now it's not a single house, it's multiple houses, and so we bring it forward for your consideration. There's some information here I'll skip, basically saying it has to be high quality materials. There are approvals by either Design Review Board or HPC, depending on the proximity of, or the location of the property. And then when these are required. So this is the section where it is giving the mayor and council has authority to approve anything that's equal to or greater than 6 feet in height. And then if someone comes in, for example, let's say they do come through for a rezoning and they do not show a retaining wall that is on their property that they need, if they come back with it later at land disturbance permit and it is greater than 6 feet in height, it is required to come back to mayor and council for a full review. In this particular case, everything on the site that is being proposed is allowed by right, except for this retaining wall, which would come forward for your approval. Next, I will point out that there are some design criteria that's in here. That's all subject to the building official when it goes through the building permit process. And then there is some sections down here regarding if there are walls associated with stormwater ponds, how they must be designed. And then most importantly are these bottom three. So the first one is regarding the stormwater ponds, and basically it states that you can't just have a concrete wall for your stormwater pond. It needs to be faced with some architecturally pleasant materials such as brick or stone, which I will show you is the case in this particular project. There are also some requirements that if the wall is really long, if it exceeds 100 feet, where it's over 6 feet, then the choice was made that we want to ask for them to break it up visually, columns in order to break up the architecture of it. And then in addition to that, you are required to do landscape screening as well. And the whole intent was to make sure that we don't have big, huge, tall walls with nothing breaking them up visually that look very commercial in nature that might be in a residential setting. That was the discussion at the time when this was written. I'll pause real quick and see if you have any questions before I move on.
I have one simple question. Actually, I have a million questions. But I have one simple question for you. Were you a part of this process?
Yes, sir.
And can you give us some insight into your expertise at the time on this process?
So the reason this section exists is because of the Great Wall of Roswell that was constructed on Coleman Road near the intersection with 120. It has its own Facebook page if you're interested in the history. There's a single family development that came in. It did go through a rezoning process. This section of the code didn't exist. Retaining walls were considered a utility for site construction. So we have construction standards and specifications regarding them. If you have tiered walls, that has to be designed by an engineer. There's some of those factors that are built into the building code that we also reference in our specifications. So at that time, a development came in on a lot or huge parcel that essentially slopes very high in this corner, very low in this corner, and the whole thing goes in that direction. And in order to lay out the street network and meet the codes that we have from a transportation perspective, they ended up needing to build a tiered retaining wall system for the layout of the development that they chose, which is very large. It's in total maybe 30 feet high at one point, and it's tiered back. And so as a result of the response to that, we had a lot of work sessions. I spent probably a year working with council and other folks around the community to come up with section 10.5 in order to have a little more control over what these retaining walls might look like when they come forward.
What's the objective?
To not allow really big retaining walls unless we like the way they look, would be the way I would boil it down to. We're not in a flat city. We have a lot of retaining walls, but there's also doing them in an aesthetic way smartly without, creating literally a canyon, that could potentially not be the way we want the city to look. So that was the basic premise behind it.
Basic premise is?
To control the size and look of retaining walls in residential areas was the reason it came forward, but it affects all commercial properties.
The macro purpose is, what's the macro objective? What are we really trying to get done?
Retaining wall in and of itself is.
Why do we have this, Randy? What's the intent of this? Like, there should be, one of the things that I think strategically that we've got to, we're going, Jason, where are you? Hello, Councilman Burke. You know where we're going in 2023 on this?
Yes,
So, common sense, right, macro objectives, and build from there. The granularity that this city has got itself into is such a cobweb.
Yes, sir.
You're one of the three experts on the face of the earth. So, actually, there's the other one right there. The other one just raised his hand, and where's Jackie? God bless her.
Vacation.
Okay. So that's my question. What's the objective? Is it clear? Is it reasonable? Is it doable? Or is it just no? Like, what I want to be able to tell people is no, because that's what the city's not going to allow that because the residents don't want it, right? No. Or yes, with clarity, here's what you have to do and here's why.
Right.
That's, to me, is kind of the framework. And I always get confused when I get into stuff because, like, it's just a cobweb. I never know. So the objective is what on this?
To control how developers utilize retaining walls.
And-
It's a little more complex than that. A
Okay.
little more advanced than that.
Okay.
Yeah, so this was probably one of the most impactful things that we move forward. And basically what we found with newer development was there'd be developers where their only goal was fitting in extra density and bringing in a lot higher density and basically to heck with what any of the neighbors think about it. And so basically, the famous one that brought this forward on why it had such massive public support was the Great Wall of Roswell. Yeah, and so, and the big comparison was, if you look at Martin's Landing, and a lot of the older neighborhoods that cared a lot more about the environment, involved a lot more in the environment, they're built into the hill versus the constant grading. Another example of this that was highly controversial that came about was off of Upper Embry. There was the Pulte development where they built the wall right up against all these single families where their kids, they felt, couldn't even run in their backyard because they were banging into this giant wall taller than them. And so it's basically the opportunity to ensure that that we're not just looking at a single development, but looking at how is it impacting the quality of life of those surrounding them, as well as just frankly making sure that it's not negatively impacting just for the opportunity of greater density and other reasons that aren't beneficial for these giant walls that change the character of a neighborhood.
So, Michael, so well said. It's always about the quality of life. That's what this is all about. It's about the quality of life and being able to create a framework that's workable, discernible, understandable, transparent, and easy to understand. And that exactly, that the objective is you don't get worked over by someone development-wise, that you get something that you don't want for your community. That's clear. The second part is that you don't keep throwing up, like, what we want is very clear from the outset, so that the developer knows, like, here's what we'll do, right? And it's not, okay, well, variance here, variance here, variance here, variance here, variance here, variance here.
And with this example, it was, we don't want gigantic walls and don't want all these big walls. And so if there's ever going to be one, there better be an incredible public benefit or zero impact to any of the neighbors for this council to consider granting a higher wall that could negatively impact the quality of life of their neighbors.
Quality of life.
And we did exclude if it's just Joe Schmo putting in a pool, that's one thing, putting a 6-foot thing. But when there's true development starting from scratch that are major impact, that it is something where they should be meeting the standards of our city.
It's one of the things that we've got so much work to do this. The inconsistency of where we're at as a city is remarkable. I have a friend of mine who's building a house on Myrtle Street right now. I could go get the pictures. He sent them to me Saturday. His front yard looks like a construction project in downtown Atlanta. The level of storm drain that he's putting in is remarkable. It looks like Turner Development is in there. It is unbelievable. And I'm going, this guy is putting in a single family home, which I'm not thinking is like, that's what we want. Again, we have these cross-contamination of measures where we want to continue to improve the quality of life. We want to provide clarity. Yet we have a history, a legacy in this city, and we have to be honest about it. We have set up so many constraints in the city that it is difficult to operate and do business. And that's not what we're after either, right? We don't want to be the city of no. We just want to be the city of yes, but the city of yes about clarity about what we will do and what we will not do. So that if you're a developer, you walk in the room, you come into ComDev, you know, like, this is what the people of Roswell will do. This is what the people of Roswell will not do. If you ask for something else, here's the guidelines, right? And the council's given us clarity on this. That's what I would like for us to achieve with our zoning code and all the other sundry pieces. And I know that sounds like fairy tale land, but if there's a city that needs to get to work on that, it's the city of Roswell, Georgia. So you forgive me, because I know your expertise is so meaningful and so great to us. It is. God bless you. I don't know how you do it. I really don't. It's just incredible. Michael, I don't know how you do it. I mean, your expertise has served the city well.
Well, this was a great example of really just the residents being active and really, really making sure that we're learning from past mistakes and making sure that we are showing developers what we do not want, do want and do not want, which is.
I want to say to you, I mean, it's public, you know, nobody watches this, but it is worth saying on the public record that if people understood what Michael Palermo has done in serving the city in terms of zoning, I think they would be, if they knew the truth and the whole truth, they would go, my God, thank you, Michael. Thank you. Because you have served this city in such a powerful way in serving the long-term interest of our city and our citizens, our residents, when it wasn't easy. And you've done it when there was great pressure against you. You got up to speed on something that's incredibly complicated and learned how to navigate through it and helped protect the quality of life of our residents time and time and time again.
Thank you for your kind words, Mr. Mayor.
That's true. And I can't wait to make this easier for you.
It's not difficult now, but thank you.
It's just for the rest of us.
This is easy.
All right. Any further question or comment regarding this item?
Well, I still have a lot more to present.
I'm sorry.
so-
I'm sorry. That's right.
But I'm going to be quick about it. I am going to be quick about it. So,
Christie
this,
just kicked me underneath, too.
it's okay. This is the site plan for the townhome development. Myrtle Street is on the bottom of the screen and Zion Circle is on the left side of the screen. So it's turned about 90 degrees from what we were looking at on the site plan earlier. The retaining wall is proposed to run along the back side of these townhome units, and then it wraps around this detention pond. And so I'm going to show you some other views of this, but just wanted to give you that perspective that what you'll be interested in is what these single family houses back here would be seeing, since that wall does face them. And then I'll show you that information. So this is the wall that we're talking about. It runs along the eastern property line, and then this is the detention pond that it goes around.
How far is it from the property line?
It's about 10 feet, if I remember the numbers correctly. The reason for that is there's currently, the way the grades are, it's going to be modified, but in today, this is the drainage area. It goes through here. There's a ditch that runs through there. That water is actually being rerouted and through their development in order for the water that discharges from this location here on Zion Circle that goes through there now is being rerouted through a pipe system. But we don't want to remove that from there because these backyards still flow to that area. And so this will maintain the ability to continue that ditch across the back of the property, which is why we have the 10 feet there.
And then on the top of the screen, it's all single-family homes backing up to it?
Correct.
What is it on the right side of the retaining wall?
This is owned by the church. They have their community garden, another building that I cannot remember what the use is off the top of my head, and then their church is the next property over.
Are you familiar with this development?
I think I'm familiar with it, I think,
I know where it's located. But.
yeah, like I know the general, high level.
So it's Zone DX, and this is a townhome development with 3 buildings in the front, 3 buildings in the back. I believe there's 5 units in each building, if I remember right. I might have my math wrong. The townhouse use is allowed by right in that zoning, which is why it hasn't come forward to council for any other approvals. So next I'm gonna show you what the rendering looks like looking from the single family houses in the back. Point of note, this is showing the vegetation once it's grown for a few years. This is not necessarily how tall it would be when it's planted, but they do have a pretty robust landscape plan that has been approved by the Design Review Board that shows some evergreens. It's I'll show you the landscape plan, but it's stacked. That's not a single row. It's got some alternations and some depth in it, and then some trees that are located along the way. To look at it from an elevation perspective, I'm going to zoom in down here. So this is up at Myrtle Street, and we're going to go south along the eastern property line. This wall all along here is a maximum height of 6 feet. Now, just as a point of clarification, we measure walls from an engineering perspective from the bottom of the foundation to the top of the wall. The exposed face for the majority of this section of the wall is only 3.8 feet. Once you get to the detention pond, it is a little bit different. It is taller. There's more that's exposed, but I want to just give you that scale, of reference here, that's that part of it. And they are proposing to do a brick finish on it. I have put as a condition, which I'll read these in just a moment, that this color needs to be approved by staff. They have an approved color palette for the townhomes. This color is not specifically named as one of the colors in that palette, and we just need to make sure it's complementary. It doesn't have to be the exact same, but we want to make sure it doesn't look ridiculous together. So that's one thing that we would run through the design review application process just to make sure before they put the finish on it that we were good with the color. This is where they would have a column to break up the material along the wall. There's another column. And then this is a match line to get us up to this section. Bear with me. This all continues just to show you that all the way across all these townhome units, which are being numbered across the top, that it is the 6 foot maximum height with the exposed face of about 4 feet. Here's where the wall, as we get past the end of the last unit, gets a little bit taller. This is where their parking lot would be sitting, is right on top of here. And then this is the wall that would surround the ponds. And so this is an exposed wall on both sides. It's a freestanding wall that's holding water, is essentially what it would be during a storm event. But continuing that same finish all the way around, this wall then wraps around and it gets shorter as it goes towards the parking lot and then comes in to the internal to the site. So there is one more short piece along the southern property line that is exposed, but it's not very long. There's not, I didn't bother to show it on here the way that they did their drawings. This is the landscape plan, just to give you a point of reference. This is the detention pond, and then here are the shrubs I was talking about that are along the way. You've got trees, you've got shrubs that are called out all along the way in order to fill in the front half of that 10-foot section that we were talking about and screen the trees. I have also created, did not put it in your packet, but based on some conversations that I thought might come up today, I wanted to show you this. It's not a section, sorry, that we normally ask them to do, except for on a building plan, and it's very technical, very like engineered. So I wanted you to see. This is Lenore's version of this, so it is not perfect, but this is essentially looking, if you're standing at the southern end of the development looking north, let me see if this pointer will work. Yeah, no, it won't. The porch that's on the left side is their front door. Their garages are on that side, and then to the right side is the back. Today, what would happen is you would have a basement door that could come out onto this flat lawn area, and then you would have the railing that's about 20 feet from the back of the house to the railing at the top of the wall, which is, hold on, let me go to this other version. How can I get out of here? All right, we'll just do it this way. It's about 20 feet to this railing from the back of the house. So they have, their porches are about 8 feet, and then it's 12 feet to here to have a flat yard, and then the retaining wall. This is then the lawn of the yard behind the house, or behind the townhouse. This is the total of the 6 foot height with the exposed face of 3.8. I'm not sure the person is actually to scale, but they provided that in their graphic that I grabbed to be able to show this, just to give you a sense of what that wall height actually looks like.
Not to scale, it's not very helpful.
Well, you know, if this is 3.8 feet, he's only about 5 feet tall, maybe 5.5. So I'm not sure what the average height of a.
Yeah. They made it for me.
Just to give you that sense of scale of what that would look like. And again, the wall material would be something that's complementary to the siding that's proposed on the brick finish for the house. I'm happy to answer any other questions. I have a couple other images that I can show you if you have questions about it. What it would look like without a wall, but it's a complete guess because I'm not the design engineer.
So the single-family homes are behind this
That is correct.
development?
Yes, sir.
So they'll be looking up?
They would be looking at the back of this, yes, sir. And that would be, this view here is what they would have.
You would expect some folks probably not to be happy with that.
So far, we have had zero concerns or complaints from their neighbors. They have been participating in the process all along. The church has been very active because of the stormwater issues and making sure that they understood what was happening on their neighboring property. And there have been, I believe, I'm not positive about this, but I believe there's been meetings as well with each of the other property owners that are immediately behind here to talk about issues they've got, drainage, any other things that are going on. They are gonna have to obtain some easements because there's a bunch of trees right on the property line. And so they're negotiating with them to make sure that if there are any impacts to those trees, that they work with those property owners. So my understanding is they're very aware of the design. It's been on the table the whole time. It's not something that's new or been a surprise. We've required them to show it on every site plan that they've presented.
Not that it's germane to the conversation, I just saw your width, looks like it's approximately 35 feet width of the unit. What's the depth, what's the width on the unit?
Oh, that's a good, let's see. It is, may not be on here. Let me see if they provide it. They do not. So let me do some, I think they're 20, they might be 24.
Okay,
Typical townhome units, the smallest allowed is 20. 24 seems to be our, kind of our average. And I just don't recall on this, they probably have a mix. Like some of these are 20 and the ends are 24 kind of thing.
square footage on these is, I don't have my
The lot has to be a minimum of 1,500, so I would guess probably 1,200 for each floor, and it's 2 stories with a basement.
Okay, awesome.
They're good size.
I just have questions about the garages.
Hmm?
So, are they single or double?
They are double, so the ones that are on, so these units that are across the bottom, their front doors are on Myrtle Street, and the garage doors are on the back. So they're classified as rear loaded because they're on a street, facing a street with the garages in the back. These units back here had to get a variance through the Board of Zoning Appeals in order to have the front doors, the garages on the front.
So they got a variance for that.
I believe they went to BZA, so let me, so typically that is an administrative variance, but they had some other issues regarding there are code requirements that basically say your driveway can only be so big and cover up so much of your yard, which is an automatic problem with, the percent is 40%. And so if you have a townhome unit, the townhome unit is the width of that property, and unless you have a driveway less than half of your, if you have a single car garage, you can't have a driveway without getting a variance. So this actually went through a variance procedure, and at the same time, we included the whole package. The garages were on there, the driveways were on there, and I feel like there was one more thing that went to Board of Zoning Appeals, but I just don't recall what it was.
Are the
But
garages more than 75%?
correct, they are. They would be. I think they were. It can't be more than. I'm sorry. No. I apologize. So 50% is the number. You can't exceed 50%. I believe theirs are something like 65% or something like that.
They exceed the width.
Right.
Exceed the driveway.
No, they don't anymore. No, they went in and got, well, they did variances on some, and then they got a variance for the garages. So they had to make some modifications to what they had to do.
As far as fire code and not having that front door or having that designated as a front door, is that a problem?
No, they still have a pedestrian door in the front. They do not have a variance to that.
Are
So
all
their
the,
front door is on the New Street Bridge Crest Road, and then their garage is also on that.
all the garages are on Bridgecrest Road, is that
Correct. Yes, sir. That is
They're all
correct.
facing it,
Correct.
but backloaded on both sides.
Correct.
So the front, one side is facing, as you, in your earlier rendering, that is facing, those units are actually facing, the front door is facing,
Oh, this is the back. I didn't get the front. Sorry. I grabbed these to be able to show you something else. So Yes, so all of the garages will be off of this street. The front door for these back units is off of this street. The front door for these units is off of Myrtle Street. So my recollection is the only thing they asked for was they had some other things they were looking at, and there was the width on the garage was included in that. We just did it all as one package.
Yes, Councilmember Palermo?
So can we go back to the plan? So, can we go back to the plan? Thank you. So I'm really zeroing in, as kind of discussed at the beginning, you know, there was obviously a very big reason on why this rule came about on just the regarding retaining walls. And what I'm especially zooming in on is, as you mentioned, the entire wall is above 6 feet, but as you show, it's a certain portion of it where it actually shows above 6 feet.
Right, the only portion that physically face of it would be above 6 feet is right here on this end down here.
And the interesting thing I find about that is it appears to me that it was not necessary for them to do it, but instead a choice to make with their design, because basically the way I'm seeing it is if they didn't have that parking, see where there's the no parking and then the dash signs at the top? If they didn't have that parking lot going right up to right there, and instead had it shaped differently, they wouldn't have the need for that large retaining wall right there. Am I understanding that correctly?
No, they would, there isn't any other way to configure that parking lot in the way that the site is done,
Well,
but.
with the number of units they chose to fit in.
No,
So you're saying even if they didn't fit in the maximum amount of townhomes, it would have been impossible for them to?
No, it's not impossible. So the reason that they have to have the wall for the pond because of the
Yes.
type of wall that they're doing.
Yep.
And then they're continuing across here to give these units a flat backyard.
Yep.
That's the reason for it. And this just connects it. They could possibly get away without doing the wall here. The reason for the wall along here is to give these flat backyards is because of the drainage ditch in the back. And so to compensate for that slope is the reason they wanted to put the wall in.
So if that parking lot, though, was instead, right now it's vertical, if instead it was horizontal, then wouldn't that create the opportunity for the retaining wall to not be as seen as large to those backed up people right there? Because you could have it coming further?
Not necessarily, just because of the size of the pond that's designed.
Well, I guess same question with the way that the pond is designed. Why,
The only way to, yeah, so just so you, okay, I'm gonna stop.
okay. So I think this is certainly going to be a good discussion at the council meeting. So that's just a piece I'm certainly going to be focusing on the part where it's showing the retaining wall being above 6 feet above the grass, because I certainly understand with the way they've set it up, then that's what's required. But it seems to me like they were ignoring the retaining wall rule, and that's something that gives me some concern.
Councilmember Hill?
Thank you. Not pertaining to the wall, but just out of curiosity, this is now a city street, correct? It's not gated?
This will be a new public street, that is correct.
Yes, Councilmember Morthland?
Just out of curiosity, do we as a city inspect retaining walls in future years as years pass by the same way we would inspect a bridge?
No, sir, we do not. Those are private, and it would be up to the property owner to do that, and most do. For example, the one we were talking about earlier, they do an annual inspection on that wall. And the HOA will continue to do that when they take over the development, would be my understanding. They are inspected at time of construction, but then beyond that, that's a private wall. Now, I will add one caveat to that in this particular case, there is a wall associated with the detention pond, and there will be a covenant in place that indicates the requirements that has to continue to be inspected to make sure that it meets code, that it's functioning properly, there's no maintenance issues on that, and the wall would be subject to that, which is a part of that.
Okay, that was really why I was curious, because this is holding back water, consistent pressure
It'd be,
outside of
yeah,
the
and
road.
it's required to be designed for that, and it only would be holding water for about 24 hours after a rain event, and then it drains out and it would be empty most of the time.
Do we have any builder specs around what can be used within that wall since it's water retention and the potential for rust?
So it would be a poured concrete wall, is what they're proposing to do, which is standard for a detention pond, and we do have design requirements that it has to be able to withstand the pressure of the water. It's designed specifically for that to function that way.
All right, thank you. Yes, Councilmember Palermo?
Would it be possible to make a motion to move this to council for the mayor and council to vote to either approve or deny this, this retaining wall exception at the upcoming council meeting?
Sure, we'll accept that as a motion. We have a second. Second by Councilmember Hall. Thank you so much.
And I would encourage for this to not be included in the consent agenda.
Noted.
Duly noted. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Thank you, passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Item number 3 under transportation. Presentation of the State Route 9 at Oxbow Road. Intersection project construction progress. Mr. Dave Cox.
Well, good afternoon. It's been just over 6 months since the city of Roswell approved the Oxbow action plan for this project, so we thought it was a good time to give a status update, given all the recent progress out there in the field. So just to recap, here's a high-level schematic of what we're trying to accomplish. It's redesigning the whole intersection at Highway 9, halfway between City Hall and Canton Street and the Square Mill Village area. And it'll be realigning Oxbow Road to connect to Mimosa, as well as going onto the existing Oxbow alignment, and also realigning Pleasant Hill through here. So currently, the current status, I can report the project is currently on schedule and has no significant issues or concerns at this time. And here's basically a list of all the recently completed tasks. The main one is the first one, that is the completion of all the underground utility work. There was a lot of work going on over the summer months. It just wasn't very clear to the public because a lot of it was underground. It looked like just a lot of dirt getting pushed around, but I can assure you a lot of the utilities were being buried, natural gas lines and other things were being done during that time. And more recently, the roadways have started to take shape, and I have some photos I'll show you here in a few moments that the citizens can see as they drive by, including the roadway base, the granite curb, and the curb and gutter east of Highway 9, and we're currently working on it on the west side over closer to Mimosa. And I also heard just the other day that the new signal pole foundations were poured, and the concrete is actually curing now. So the traffic signal poles may be installed in the next 60 to 90 days. So just looking ahead in the near term, some of the next steps are to get the sidewalks installed now that the curb and gutters are there. We're expecting to pour some concrete within the next 7 to 10 days, weather permitting. I know we have some rain in the forecast this evening and partly this weekend. And we're also hoping to get some asphalt started, probably in the first week of November. It will not be the final asphalt treatment, but it'll be some of the initial asphalt going in. So I think our residents will really see that as a major milestone on the project. And we've also started some of the landscaping, which I'll show you some photos here in just a minute. So we're still well on track to be substantially complete by next autumn and October. And if we have to continue to have good weather and great progress, early completion is definitely within the realm of possibility later this summer. And we'll continue, of course, to provide updates to the mayor and council as we move forward into the winter and spring. Here's some high-level photos from our drone pilot. He took this last week. You can clearly see the roadways are very evident there. You can see the curb and gutter here along Highway 9. You can see where the new roadbed, the new northbound lanes will kind of be shifted over to make room for the left turn lane that'll go in here at the intersection where the traffic light will go. Here's another angle. The drone is basically parked over Mimosa Boulevard. You're looking to the east. You can see all the new power poles that were realigned for the roadway, the new intersection here. So there's some good progress here. This is basically the same thing, just looking in the opposite direction. You can see I believe that's the Baptist church there in Mimosa. You can see the columns there. This is where a lot of the heavy work is going on right now. They're trying to get some of the concrete curbs poured on these radiuses here where Mimosas, they have the sidewalk currently closed, so we're trying to get that reopened as quickly as possible. The sidewalk on the east side of Mimosa, we know a lot of our residents use the sidewalk to go between Canton Street and the square as opposed to Highway 9. Here's some ground level photos just showing a close-up of the curb and gutter installed. Here is one of the median islands that is on Oxbow Road. This is kind of one of the traffic calming features here near the intersection. Highway 9 is right at the top of the rise here. And this picture was actually, I think, taken earlier today. This was the sod installation. And as I said, with rain, we have some heavy rain coming into the area later this evening. This is actually great timing. We get some free watering and it'll help any erosion. You can see here's over by Pleasant Hill. They're working over here. And this is on kind of the southeast side. You're looking up Highway 9 is right up here. So there's a lot happening down there. So real quickly, if it's okay, Mayor, I just want to recognize a few people who've been instrumental into this progress. Our engineering design manager, Greg Nicholas, who you know, Joe Vitale, who's sitting next to me. Joe Vitale is our construction and maintenance manager. Suzanne Mott is our street construction supervisor. And lastly, but certainly not least, Lee Dyer is our streets and highway inspector. If you ever drive by, look for Lee. He's usually perched up on the hill. He's kind of the general surveying the battlefield, so to say, and he's helping run interference for the contractors. And if there's any little hiccups, he usually gets those resolved very quickly. So we're very proud of the team, and I do thank you very much for all your efforts on this to keep this on track. So with that, I'll yield for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Cox, very, very much. Obviously, that's a great progress report, and certainly acknowledge the mayor and council for the manner in which they very assertively and aggressively developed the Oxbow Action Plan to move this project forward. Any comments or questions from mayor and council?
Yeah, well, just a couple of comments. Randy, it's not, we're not done yet. Christmas of '23 is our promised delivery date. We will deliver this to our fellow residents Christmas 2023. But underneath your leadership, Randy, and your team, Dave, your leadership, amazing. Thank you. We got a good jump. We got a good start. We still got a ways to go. Everybody knows this was a 15-year project that we spent $15.4 million on. And this council and staff, within 90 days, created an action plan, improved the project as much as they could within the purview of the law, and created a plan of execution to be delivered to our residents for $3 million by Christmas of 2023. And you can see that the progress is substantial. It's amazing. Thanks for all the great work everybody's doing. We still got to carry it out, got to finish it, but it's exciting to see the great progress. I think everybody's seeing it. And it's amazing what y'all have gotten done in basically 6 months is beyond the progress or the lack of progress of the previous 15 years. So it's pretty incredible when you guys really put the pedal to the metal. So well done, thank you, and let's get the job finished.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Any further comments, questions? Yes, Councilmember Palermo.
Yeah, I definitely echo the mayor's sentiment. I think it'd be so easy for any of us or anyone in the public saying, come on, why isn't it done now? And we want it done immediately, and obviously we all feel that way. But again, we have to be honest and accept the fact that at the beginning of this year, when this mayor and council came in, literally nothing was happening. So December of last year, nothing was happening. November of last year, nothing was happening. January, nothing was happening. And just so glad that although we all want to snap our fingers and want it to be done, this mayor and council and really thanks to staff really pushing hard and just seeing what are the exact steps that need to get done, and I'm definitely optimistic that we're gonna beat that deadline, and definitely just appreciate all the amazing progress that you all are making. So it's fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. Any further comments, questions regarding this item? All right, seeing none. All right, this was a progress report. No action needed. Things are going well, and we certainly want to maintain the momentum on this project. So thank you. Thank you all very much. Thank you. All right, the next item under transportation, item number 4, consideration of a resolution to submit a local maintenance and improvement grant project list for FY 2023 to the Georgia Department of Transportation and accept the LMIG funds for $948,411.88 from GDOT.
Thank you, Mr. Knighton. Yes, this is an annual item that the Transportation Department goes through each year. It's part of the Local Maintenance and Improvement Grant, or commonly called LMIG. Basically, that is a funding program that uses state motor fuel tax. So anytime you fill up your gas tank, a tiny portion of that money comes back to the residents of Georgia through the LMIG program. And most cities use it for maintenance, different maintenance activities. We in Roswell primarily apply it to our resurfacing program, which Joe Vitale helped manages for us. It's basically a formula system based on your population and your centerline miles. So given Roswell has one of the higher populations in the state and a significant amount of road mileage, we get a pretty sizable chunk of that pie every year. It's nearly $1 million. So we do have to apply for it every year. It does require a local match, which is the $284,523.56. That is not a new request. That's money the mayor and council have already approved in the FY23 budget. We always, at a very minimum, request that amount to make sure we don't lose out on any of the LMIG funding as part of the matching requirement. So one of the other parts of the application we have to submit is what roads we're going to do. So we typically, for this LMIG funds, we usually go after our collector or arterial type roads. So this year, based on our pavement ratings, the two roads are Etris and Shallerford Road. Etris is up in the northern part of the city, and then obviously Shallerford is over in the western part of the city. It's about 3.3 centerline miles. So that's what we're targeting. So as part of this motion, we'd like to request you approve the road list as well. I do want to point out this does not include the city-funded maintenance program. Staff will likely be back at a later date to propose the road list for our local city-funded road repaving program. We just wanted to get this LMIG part done as it's, I believe it's time sensitive and it's due before the end of the calendar year. So we thought this was a good time to go ahead and just check this box and get this submitted. So the staff recommendation is for the mayor and council to authorize the mayor to sign our application and submit it to GDOT so we can receive the $948,000 in the new year. And Joe Vitale will be procuring the contract for our resurfacing probably later this winter, I believe in January or February, so we can hit the road paving as early as March when the weather warms back up.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Councilmember Palermo, second by Councilmember Hall. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Moves forward unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item number 5 under administration, consideration of the 2023 calendar of mayor and council and committee meetings. Ms. Marley Press, city clerk, will present this item.
We should offer congratulations to Marley for running her half marathon again on Sunday, another one.
Absolutely amazing, yes, yes.
And finished third.
In my age group. In my age group, y'all, not finished third day.
That was the 20 to 29-year-old age group.
Yeah, it's the 20.
Congratulations.
Okay, well, it's that time of the year again to approve our calendar for next year. And we had just a few dates that we wanted to talk to y'all about, some of our holiday dates that we normally put in. So we have our May date. Wanted to make sure that y'all wanted to move the open forum from the May 29th date to the 30th, just the next day on Tuesday. And then I wanted to see if y'all wanted to do the same for Columbus Day for in October. We did move it this year to the Tuesday, and that would again be the two mayor and council following the committee meeting. And then we wanted to see what y'all wanted to do for December. We've normally in the past have canceled the last council meeting. Last year it was decided to at least move the community development up, so we had it the same night as our admin, finance, public safety. So those are the main dates. And then I know you all wanted to talk a little bit about location change for maybe some of the council meetings.
So can we scroll down and see the,
I'm sorry, I can make this smaller. Let's make this all together smaller. So that is the calendar. There wasn't that many changes. I mean, we have the holidays and stuff on here. A lot of them aren't affected, but just wanted to, it was just the May, the Columbus Day, and then the December meeting. We're not really affected by Thanksgiving next year. So I just really wanted to see what y'all wanted to do and what you wanted to do about the location that you all were talking about.
Well, I guess my question would be, couldn't we agree on the dates and still in a later meeting really plan out? Because right here, it's not saying where it's going to be, it's just saying.
Right, that's
date of
what,
the meeting.
that was my whole point of it
Yeah.
before, and then we can just,
Yeah.
I think we're.
Since we're having our next meeting
See how
at
it works.
East Roswell, that'll be a good test to
Right.
see how it works and what kinks we have to work out, if there are any kinks, so that we can plan beyond that.
so do y'all want to keep the dates the same with Columbus Day and Christmas and then
Anybody have any issues
Memorial
with
Day?
this?
Mayor
Mr.
Wilson?
yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'm appalled at the lack of proper protocol by Councilmember Palermo and Councilmember Hill here, being recognized by the chair. I'm kidding, I started it tonight, it's my bad. I'm so sorry, Mr. Chairman. No, I think, I'd like to motion we move forward on it.
Okay.
All right. Motion by Mayor Wilson, second by Councilmember Palermo. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? All right, passes unanimously.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
All right.
When's the next one?
This Sunday.
Oh, my God.
All right, item number 6, consideration for the mayor and/or city administrator to award contracts to American Facility Services and 3H and 3H Incorporated for janitorial services for 9 city facilities. Mr. Fisher?
Thank you, Mr. Knighton. I know this is a trashy item that we need to clean up. We were here late last night and going to be again tonight. That's right. Anyhow, this is exactly what it is. It's for our janitorial services, and I've got Lisa Hines here, our building operations coordinator, kind of walk you through what we're doing, because we actually are going with 2 distinct vendors this time. So if Lisa wants to go over that, I would appreciate it.
Everyone. For this year's janitorial services contracts, service areas, we actually divided them into 4 different areas to make the RFP process run smoother and to be a little more simpler for our bidders or offerers. Service Area 1 included City Hall, Law Enforcement Center, 911, Ripley Building, and Community Circle, and Cultural Arts Center. Service Area 2 was the Roswell Recycling Center and Rapstick. Area 3 was the Water Stormwater Facility at 105 Frank Lewis Drive and the Water Treatment Plant at 100 Frank Lewis Drive. Service Area 4 is 1810 Hembry, which includes solid waste, environmental public works, fire headquarters, and transportation. This is a breakdown of the building square footage that is included in these janitorial services contracts, comes to 254,984 square feet. Each vendor submitted a separate cost proposal for each building, and we also included biannual services such as interior, exterior, window cleaning, and carpet cleaning. And we also informed the vendors that we reserve the right to extend an offer to more than 1 vendor based on their proposals. Staff is recommending American Facility Services for janitorial services for service areas 1 and 4, and 3H and H Incorporated for janitorial services for water, stormwater facility, water treatment plant, recycling center, and Rapstick. The other facilities, such as Rec and Parks buildings, will be addressed at another time when their contracts are expiring. Our current contract expired October 15th with our current companies, and we extended it through mid-November to get through the RFP process. The prices, I apologize, is $261,360 for American Facility Services for areas 1 and 4, and $59,172 per year for services areas 2 and 3, and each department has individual budgets for custodial services. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer, try to answer.
I do have a question.
Questions? Yes.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mayor Wilson.
where's Ryan Luckett? Because my question would be in relation to zero-based budgeting. So if you approve an RFP in October, this is for calendar year 24, isn't it?
The contracts would start mid-November, and the contract is proposed for 3-year term.
These are 3-year terms.
Yes, sir.
So I can't touch them with zero-based budgeting.
Yes, you can. All of our contracts, no matter how long they're extended, are always based on our budget approval. We don't do a contract that we don't get out. The contracts are such that is provided for, if it's provided for in the budget. If it's not budgeted for, then no.
So say in February, you and I are, Randy, we're in the room and we're going through administration on the zero-based budgeting process, and we're in the final pieces, and we say, right? But this has been, you've got a contract on this. You're saying this can be
Correct.
killed.
At the budget, during the budget process, yes.
You can't.
So July 1, if we don't budget for janitorial services, then we're not in that contract anymore. I think any government contract we do, we have out for the budget.
Typically, when we have like a 3-year contract, it's typically a 1-year
1 year
contract
with
that
automatic
runs from
renewals.
July 1st through June 31st. And with the automatically renewal, but if we know we're going to cancel it, we can do it within 30 days prior to that, if that makes sense. So if you know in February, for example, that you're not going to do this, then you can send in that we're not going to renew it.
Contract starts mid-November, or backs. This contract backs up starts in October, correct? So would be, I guess the way you'd have to rewrite the contract to run with the fiscal year.
Correct, and I agree with Mr. Perry, and I believe each party has the opportunity to cancel the contract if funds are not budgeted
We
for the
always,
next fiscal year.
we always have that in our
I think
contracts,
that's the way it would be.
always.
So in October, this passes in committee, goes to council, passes, boom, boom, we start paying. We go through the budget, zero-based budgeting process. We say, it gets nixed.
July 1, we won't have them anymore,
Okay,
Technically, June 30th.
or June 30th.
okay,
Contracts would
okay. I just want to make sure we got that
Yes, sir.
flexibility.
We won't ever, anything that we do for the most part, we don't ever tie a new budget year. It's always a renewal at some point.
That's why I wish Ryan was here. But Mr.
Yes.
Knighton, you're here. You understand that I don't want us to be handcuffed in the zero-based budgeting process by any contracts.
We got you.
Okay.
All right. Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll entertain a motion to move this item forward. Motion by Councilmember Morthland, second by Councilmember Hills. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Passes unanimously. That concludes items for the Community Development and Transportation Committee for October 25th, 2022. We'll entertain a motion of adjournment. Motion by Mayor Wilson, second by Councilmember Hall. All in favor? Thank you very much.